Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of At the Bar. I'm your host, Brad Marshall, and this series is designed to have conversations around the topic of health and wellness and mindset. Today, a special episode joined for the first time by a couple. So excited to dive into it with both Michael and Kristen tonight. So thank you both for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
That's very unison.
I'm very excited to see how this is going to play out too. When you have a question to see who answers it. Is it going to be in unison or who takes over? We're not scripted here, so this will be fun. But what we like to do to start to help folks get to know both of you a little bit better is give you an opportunity. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, as much or as little as you'd like, so folks who are listening can get to know who's on the podcast today.
You first.
Oh, okay. Michael Haag. I was born in Kentucky, grew up in Georgia, went back to school in Kentucky, stayed there for a little while. That's where Kristen and I met, in Kentucky. We moved to North Carolina about 3 years ago for a job here. So that's how we landed here in North Carolina. And Holly Springs was like in the affordable range when we moved here. It might have skyrocketed since then. So moved to Holly Springs and just really enjoy living here in North Carolina. Like Kristen, introduce herself.
Okay, we also have kids, but I am Kristen Haag, and I grew up in California. We met at school, or I was in school in Kentucky, and we ended up here. We have 2 kids. 4-year-old and a almost 2-year-old, and then we also have a 2.5-year-old in India. So we're almost a family of 5.
Almost. Yeah, and really exciting. And that's essentially how we've had a chance to interact and meet is through the gym, but then getting to know you and the kids and the little one that's on the way. It's been really, really fun, and I think that's why the conversation today I'm excited about to dive into this idea of health and wellness as a family and how folks listening at home can learn maybe some tips or tricks or things that you all have implemented. And so along those lines, let's start off with just what is your sort of fitness or health and wellness journey been like? Now met at the CrossFit gym, but tell us a little bit about what your fitness history has been like.
Yeah, I grew up playing a lot of sports. Played competitive soccer when I was younger, then switched to softball. Played through high school, and then after college, I didn't really know how to fitness because everyone was always, you always have a coach telling you what to do when, and that's what keeps you in shape and moving. And so it kind of fell out of really moving my body for any reason other than, going places. And so after I had Logan, our oldest, when he was about 8 months old, I got into a CrossFit gym down in Georgia, and I loved it and went every single day. I had a great coach at Shake Rag, and kept doing CrossFit. And Michael got bugged a lot about joining CrossFit because I loved it so much and loved the community. And so I've just been doing CrossFit ever since, and finally got him to join in.
You have the opposite effect that my wife and I had, where I started and then took her about 3 or 4 years of hearing enough about it that she finally decided to try it out. So it's funny how one partner does start down that road, and sooner or later the other one kicking and screaming sometimes comes, but it turned out well. So Michael, let's hear a little bit about what your fitness history has been like.
Yeah, I grew up, I played soccer in middle school, played some in high school, played lacrosse in high school, went to college, definitely gained the freshman 15, maybe the freshman 20. And it was just like all school. So like I would work out occasionally, you go to the gym at school and you lift weights for like 30 minutes and you do like some curls and some bench press, and that's, the extent of what you're doing. And then like once we graduated, like same thing. I wasn't like eating anything, wasn't working out consistently, anything like that. When we moved to Georgia, right before we had Logan, we were going to be close to my parents, pre-babysitting, things of that nature. there was a triathlon club that was in Peachtree City. So for a couple years there, I was doing like triathlon, like sprints and stuff like that. Did my first half marathon. I did a marathon. So I was doing like some distance stuff. It was just easy to do at the time. So fitness has always been kind of like there in one shape, form, or fashion. And then when we moved here, I started doing CrossFit shortly after we started moving here, a different gym, and then moved to Shoe Fly. Yeah, so that's been my kind of fitness journey.
Yeah, and what I think is always so fascinating is to hear how people's fitness jerseys evolve over time. And a lot of folks, it seems like, especially in the CrossFit community, start off playing some kind of sport, and maybe that's why they appreciate or enjoy that transition. So Chris, how did you come to find CrossFit down in Georgia? Because I always think it's fascinating to hear people's stories of how they wander in or figure out, hey, let's go try this thing out, and that becomes what they enjoy.
Yeah, actually, my family is a very big CrossFit family. My brother started 12 years ago. He went to college in Reno, Nevada, and one of the PE classes was a CrossFit class at an affiliate. And so he has his L1 or his L2, and then he got my dad into it, and my dad got my mom into it, and my dad has L1, and really passionate. He's like the guy that will tell you about CrossFit anytime you want to know about it, how wonderful it is for your life, and how you can, he, got off medication from it, and, just the life-changing effects of CrossFit. He's that guy. And so finally I succumbed to all the hype.
The peer family pressure pushed her.
It was worth it though, because once I got into it, it was definitely something that fits me and my personality really well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have not actually heard too many stories like that where the whole family is involved in that way, shape, or form without, owning an affiliate or something like that. So,
so you can imagine the pressure on Michael once I had joined. He was the only one in the family who was not doing it.
Just a matter of time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So what, out of curiosity, Michael, what sort of hesitations did you have during that period? Because I have my side of the story with my own family and the hesitations before, she finally came. So I'm just curious, what on your end, what were some of the hesitations before jumping in?
Yeah, I think I was just doing other things, right? Like running / triathlon was just my thing. It was easy to do. When we were in Atlanta, I was commuting about 2 hours a day. So I really had to basically just make do with whatever gym and fitness I was given. So there was a gym on site where I was working. So I basically just had to do that and run around there. So those really didn't allow a lot of options for like getting home for classes or anything near our house. So it was basically a logistical thing. And then once we moved here, everything's so much closer. That's one of the major reasons we moved here, is that the commute is so much better. So more time to get to classes in the morning and things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how when you can find the convenience of a place that's close enough, local, fits in your schedule, those are all big pieces. And so I think it's always interesting to see how people's goals or aspirations change over time. Initially, if you're involved in a sport, the whole reason you're working out or trying to get better is to do well in that sport. And then you leave that sport and you're just kind of like, okay, now what? What's the point? And for various reasons, we go find fitness pieces that work for us. So I'm curious to hear from both of you. What sort of goals or aspirations or things are on your mind when you think about why you are engaging in fitness, or what are things you're striving towards?
Mine's a little unique right now. So 4 years ago, when I was in the triathlon, like doing that all the time, I was like, I did a couple of sprints, I did an Olympic or two, and then I was like, all right, I'll sign up for a half Ironman. There's one down in Wilmington. It's close. Her parents live there, so it's out of convenience. Is a good place to do one. So that was 4 years ago. The first year I'd signed up, a hurricane came through like 2 or 3 weeks before, and the water quality was terrible. You couldn't swim in it, so they had to cancel that year. The second year, our daughter was born like a month before, and I couldn't spend like 12 to 16 hours training. Kristen probably would have killed me. And then last year was COVID and they canceled it. So this is year number 4. I've been signed up for this race. And to be quite honest, I'm not like excited to train for it. I'm like dreading it. I was like, when I signed up for a race 4 years ago, like that was,
We had no kids.
yeah, that was
Lots of
no kids
time.
ago. That was just a long life ago, it seems like. So I'm kind of begrudgingly headed towards the goal of a half Ironman. I want to check it off my lists, get the medal, and that's about it. That's about all I'm doing for the next 2 months.
Okay, so it's coming up in 2 months.
Yeah, it's at the end of October. Yep.
Okay, is that something that you've stayed relatively like close to, running, biking, swimming, or is this sort of like I'm getting back into it now?
Yeah, I'm really getting back into it. Like
Okay.
Because he loves CrossFit so much, he doesn't want to do the triathlon stuff.
Pretty much. I was like, we just like did the clean and jerk max, and I PR'd that, and like PR'd some squats and front squats, and now like I've been doing CrossFit. I mean, I'd run occasionally. Like I'd take the kids out, for a 5K or whatever. We go ride the bike, but nothing like hopping on the bike for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours. That'll be, or I haven't been like running anything over 4 or 5 miles. So yeah, and I haven't swam probably since I trained 4 years ago for the first race. I don't like swimming. I got in the pool this week for the first time in a long time to swim, and I'm just not thrilled about it. So
yeah, well, this will be the true test to see if CrossFit does help out in other areas. Of the games athletes just had a 1 mile swim to open up the event. They got fins though, so they got a little bonus.
Yeah, little advantage.
Yeah, so that's exciting. So half Ironman coming up. And Kristen, how about you? When you think about what you're working towards, some goals or aspirations, what's on your mind?
I feel like my CrossFit goals are always, I mean, I love conquering like the next thing, like the next skill. I think long-term, my goal, I mean, my 2 kids come to class with me and you've seen them there. So, showing them like what our bodies can do in like a really cool way. And I love that, at Shoofly, there's so many women there that are very strong. And so they're seeing like these awesome role models every single day. And so I feel like my goal in doing CrossFit is just being like a really great role model for my kids and teaching them about, health in a fitness space where it's like all positive and like, you're using your body to get strong and to be functional and to move well and, lift a lot of stuff. Like my kids always tell me that I am strong and like they think like mommy's strong and daddy's strong and they are strong. And so, I just love being able to have them to see that as an example every single day.
Yeah, and something I love about what you said there is we don't always have to have this like very tangible, concrete goal of I need to finish a specific race, lift a certain weight, etc. We can have the general goal of I just want to be healthy, I want to be strong, I want to be a role model. And it really is incredibly powerful just having that type of motivation can be for us. So I think that's really cool and unique perspective to have is maybe there's not a number we're searching for, or maybe there is, but just this general sense of I want to be a great role model for the kids. Yeah. And I think that's a great place for us to dive into that. And one of the reasons I thought it would be unique to have you both on here is how do you do that within a family? And we have a lot of families at Shoofly, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks who try and figure out what that balance is like of having kids, but still having time to focus on health and fitness, whether it's getting a workout in, the way that you eat, the lifestyle that you choose. So let's start around what are the habits that you and your family have established that you feel like help you all when it comes to your health and fitness as a family?
I feel like for one, the habit of like going to the gym every day and making it just like part of our daily schedule is super important, especially with kids. Getting them going places is really difficult. And so when they wake up in the morning, they wake up, we hang out, they have breakfast, and they know like we're going to CrossFit. And so it's not like a question, it just happens every day except for Thursday. And so I think being in the routine and having it part of the daily schedule makes it easy to go. And so it's not a fight every morning. Like everyone knows that's where we're going. And so then I don't have to worry about like, oh, this is going to be too difficult to get us all going to CrossFit. Like we're there when we need to be because it's just part of our daily routine. That's important.
Yeah. And I think finding a space that supports or allows for that too, whether that's, you know, CrossFit gym or any other gym, having a space where the kids can come along. And like you said, then they can see and observe and learn a lot that's going on and be a part of it. It's not like, oh, I got to drag them, but like they're actually engaged in learning in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, they definitely do a lot of workouts at home. They've got a little barbell. They'll start breaking out. They like to do a lot of burpees and running, which is not my preference, but it's easy to replicate at home. And so they do that a lot. Tonight we were watching the CrossFit Games and they started doing wall walks on our walls.
They were trying.
They were trying really hard.
They weren't successful. They were
kind of. I was going to say if they got inverted at that age, I was going to be impressed. That would be amazing.
I mean, Kylie was up. They both had their feet up. They're just like on their heads. They've got short arms when they're little. Yeah.
They don't have the upper body strength quite yet.
Yeah. And with the food and the healthy eating, it's more not so much for us. We kind of just stick to what we need to eat. We try to model good eating habits for them, but they at this age really prefer like mac and cheese and
you just have to kind of accept the facts.
We just got food in the belly is good, but it is cool. We do talk about food in the sense of like what it does to your body. And so like this morning, Logan didn't want to eat his breakfast, or he had a plate of eggs and our dog ate them because he had them down on a low table. And he goes, I need more eggs. I don't have any protein. And so like we talk about like what's protein, and protein is like fuel for the day, or like carbs are like short, you need energy quick. And so talking about food in terms of like what it does for your body is something we try and do at home. And so I feel like they understand that. They know that they need protein for the day, and they'll be like, does this have protein in it? And I'm like, yep. So that's going to be good. That'll keep you full longer. Let's add some fat with it. And, try to teach those lessons about food so that it's fuel, and your food is fuel and your body is there to do stuff.
Yeah. It's incredible how much kids soak up from moving like people they see, or also the nutrition side. And what I really appreciate about that is I feel like that is something that is not necessarily learned through school or anything like that, of like, what is food in terms of having it for fuel, and how much should I eat, and what should it look like? And if we just rely on, the media and TV and all this and that, we can get a really distorted view of what food looks like. So just out of curiosity, how did you all come to learn about the nutrition? Did your parents set you up in a way that, hey, this is food, this is what we like to eat or not eat, or how did that operate?
Well, here's my fun fact. My undergraduate degree is in human nutrition. So I am formally educated, but that was
technically qualified.
Yeah, technically qualified, but I haven't done any continuous learning in 10 years. So there's no certificates that go along with that.
So we've got the basics.
Yeah, so I think like growing up, like food was never, food was just what was on the table. There wasn't anything healthful. It wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't like, you get hamburger helper on the dinner table and or mac and cheese or whatever it may be. I'm not saying those foods are unhealthful, but in certain back to back, they can be adding up. And I think that my parents had somewhat of an unhealthy relationship with food. They've been on a recent journey to lose a lot of that weight, which is great. But I was never really taught anything about healthful food or learning. And when I went to college, it's like, I want to go to medical school. I don't want a biology degree because that seems useless. So I'll go the nutrition route, gets me on the prereqs. But kind of went through that program, and I think like a lot of the research has changed. I think it's one of those fields that continuously changes as far as like we're finding out new things, finding out how the body reacts and how the body is transforming. But like the baseline knowledge of like, what is a carb, what is a protein, how does that break down in your body, and like all those kind of fun things that I learned that we've kind of continued to learn about. And I think that's I use my nutritional knowledge and Kristen's like recipes, and then we like look at them, and I'm like, yeah, yes or no, or is this good, is this bad, yes, no, that kind of stuff. So I think that we spend a lot of time talking about that, and how mainly for us, obviously for the kids too, but a little bit more picky on their side than we are. So
Yeah, and I always think that's so interesting, people's upbringing, because I can relate a little bit. Grew up with three brothers, and it was just, we need to get these boys fed because they enjoy athletics and they're trying to grow and all this and that. But then, like you said, it is hard and challenging to figure out how much, what types, etc. And that can change based on goals, based on what you're going through, pregnancies and coming out of pregnancies, and what does that look like. So having somebody, or a variety of coaches who can help navigate those waters is important. But then also, training the kids, and it'll be hopefully second nature for them as they grow older, which is really cool that you're able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like it would be super valuable to grow up thinking of food in a how this fuels my body perspective, instead of, I feel like, so many women grow up and they've had bad relationships with food. And so our goal is just always to make sure that food is positive, and like that we know what food does. So, if you're eating a bunch of, Logan had, we don't do a ton of sugar. Logan had a kid size ice cream cone the other night, and the kid size was like basically an adult size. It was ginormous, and he decided to eat the whole thing, and he's never had more than like maybe a couple bites of ice cream. And we're driving home, and he goes, I do not feel good. My belly hurts so bad. And so we just talked about like, your body's like really small, and that was a lot of sugar. And so like your body cannot metabolize all that sugar, and that hurts your belly. And so talking about food in like ways that it affects your body, and hopefully with all that, they'll end up with like this good relationship with food, and kind of understand and make decisions based on their knowledge instead of like what they feel like they want.
Yeah, we didn't stop it. Like we know better, right? Like we're obviously educated, like we know better, but for him to like learn that in the environment of like, okay, we know what's gonna happen here. Let's let it play out with him, and then talk him through.
Yeah, and the next time
that's gonna play out.
Next time we got ice cream, he was like, I don't want any. It's gonna make my belly hurt. And we were like, you can have a little bit. And so he got, like the smallest little scoop. And he goes, my belly doesn't hurt. And we're like, okay, well, maybe you found like a good portion size for yourself. Like, that's great. You've now learned that. So next time, make sure that you don't eat like a giant amount. Yeah. So it's a really cool, like the thing that you hope happens when it plays out in real life happens. Yeah. And so we're like, awesome, great learning opportunity.
We're great parents. Great job.
I know, good job.
You got to make sure he doesn't, develop disgust for ice cream, because when he hits PRs, he's going to need to go get Blizzard.
He's going to get the Blizzard PR. Yeah.
Gotta go to Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen on Instagram too, you're dabbling in some foreign cuisines, obviously preparing for a new one to join the family. So what's that been like, kind of venturing and dabbling in some different cuisines? Because I feel like people, especially when you try and eat a certain way, you can get a little regimented. You just have your basic proteins and carbs, and now you're mixing it up and bringing some Indian cuisine into the mix. What's that been like?
We do not count macros. I have asked, we'd have to talk to Street about it, but I feel like it would be kind of hard to calculate like a portion size, but it's really interesting. I've noticed, like, we make Indian food twice a week now. And, when you go to a restaurant, it seems like it has a bunch of stuff, but basically Indian food is all vegetables, a meat, or like lentils or beans or something like that. And then you have like your rice on the side or something. But like the base of most of the sauces is like tomato and onion. So it's vegetables. So it's actually really healthy. All really quality stuff. When you're so I feel like sometimes when you eat different foods out, you get like the restaurant version of it that isn't that like as healthy as you want it to be. But making it at home, it's actually really decent food, and it tastes wonderful, of course, but like it's really good, like tons of vegetables, and you've got your protein, and then you've got a little rice on the side. So it's kind of like a nice little trio there.
That's awesome. We've talked to a lot of people that basically like, okay, you think Indian food, most Americans think Indian food of like what they get at an Indian restaurant, like
a curry
or tikka masala or whatever. It's like those restaurants have actually like made it more fatty to accommodate or like to appeal to an American diet. Whereas like the recipes that Kristen's looking at are like authentic and like the basics. So it's like much healthier than what you would typically get in an Indian restaurant in the US.
That was actually gonna be my next question, is where did you find recipes to cook? Is it just dabbling yourself with different ingredients once you start to learn them? Because I feel like even when you look for recipes online, even for just traditional foods, it is hard to find stuff where you're not layering in a lot of fats and butters and things like that. So just out of curiosity, is there certain places you've gone that you've enjoyed hearing their recipes or trying them out and they seem to be in line with the way that you like to eat?
Yeah, I just look for recipe bloggers who are Indian. So, going to the source, keeping it authentic. And so there's like a blog called Ministry of Curry and one's called Piping Pot Curry, and shouldn't have named curry in both of them, but they're both really easy to follow and are not like fluffed recipes with extra things that you don't really need. And those are both Indian bloggers, and just like to get my ethnic foods from the source. And so that's where we're trying to go.
Yeah, and then most like the other recipes, I think you typically look at like clean eating or
when we're not eating Indian,
yeah, stuff like that. It's typically like the buzzwords to
you have to search the buzzwords to find recipes.
Like minimal sugar, minimal processed type foods. Yeah. I mean, we try to look for recipes that are like as minimally processed as possible, right? Like don't buy 3 packaged foods and then add them together to make a meal. It's like, all right, is this start with vegetables or start with the meat and then we make the outcome there? So I think it's what we typically try to look for on like recipes and ingredient lists. The shorter they are, the better they are.
Yeah,
that's what I think that like my knowledge, my education, like I can look at an ingredient list and tell you like almost every single thing that's on there, even like the maltose dextrin number 4 red, like all those things that I learned about. I can tell you typically, is that okay, or like let's shy away from that kind of stuff. So
yeah, the old tip around shopping around the outside of the market, that's typically where everything's a little bit healthier, less ingredients on the label versus the stuff in the interior.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love this idea of the way that you cook and talk about food and nutrition with your family. I think one of the things that comes up a lot of times is this idea of time. And when you've got kids and you've got schedules and there's work and now you've got an hour at the gym and this and that, how do you go about planning and how do you go about actually cooking the food? Maybe give us some of the tips or things that you found to be helpful. Is it like a bulk cook at the beginning of the week and spread it out? Are we cooking every day? Like, what does this look like for somebody who's interested in, hey, I want to have some healthier meals, but I've got kids, I've got work, I've got to go to the gym. Like, how do I fit all of that in and figure out how to do that the most efficient way possible?
I guess I cook. So for breakfast, it's just kind of really boring. They eat the same thing every single day. They have eggs because it fills them up and they get protein. And then they have like a little bit of toast. And then sometimes if they get up a little early, they'll start with a bowl of cereal and milk just to curb their appetite until I'm ready to make breakfast. So it's pretty much, they have eggs every single day. And
that's
then
pretty much
that's what I eat.
Pretty much what we all eat.
That's true.
Every single day.
That's what I eat. So I just make all
that makes it easy. So they're eating exactly what mom and dad are eating. So you just cook it all together. Nice.
Yeah, lunch we do sometimes do a little muffin tin lunch for the kids, which is like little 6 muffin tin little things, and then I have the same thing every day for lunch, which that makes it easy. So I think for breakfast and lunch, I know that wouldn't work for everyone because everyone can't eat the same thing, but I'm totally fine eating the exact same thing for breakfast and lunch every single day. And so that makes it quick and easy, and I have the ingredients really close. And then for dinner, I actually do enjoy cooking and the kids are used to it. So I spend 30 to 45 minutes to making dinner every night. I do not like reheated food, so I don't like to meal prep in that sense.
And have all your portions laid out and just throw it in the microwave.
No, I'm not a big fan of that, and which is kind of hard, but I feel like it just tastes better. And so I do cook every night. with them.
Yeah, the biggest thing too is like Kristen meal plans.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So she goes to the grocery once a week and gets everything for the entire week. So it's not like oh, what are we gonna make tonight? Run to the store and everything. I know that can be like
That's true.
everyday thing for a lot of people, and it's a last minute thing. So she'll like plan out the meals for 7 days, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Not plan out breakfast and lunch necessarily, but we get all the ingredients right. And then she cooks at night, which she doesn't work. So that's probably a big difference than a lot of folks. That helps out a lot. So yeah, but big thing is schedule, I think, is the key.
That's true. Meal planning does help. Knowing what I'm going to make every single night is helpful.
Yeah. And it's nice to have those staples, like you said, of like breakfast and lunch. If they're very similar, you know, every week exactly what you're getting for those pieces. And then dinner, you can have some fun with it and figure out, hey, let's try something else. Or we're a little tired of this meal. Let's switch it up and go find something a little bit more unique. So it gives you both the stability of knowing, okay, I'm going to be consistent, and then that freedom and flexibility. So, hey, you can have dinners that you enjoy and you're not eating the same thing. Because I think, at least what I've heard from certain folks when it comes to how do I figure out how to eat a little healthier, more consistently, is like, well, I don't want to eat the same thing every single day and just do chicken and broccoli. And it's like the whole world of nutrition that's outside of chicken and broccoli that you can have and still live the life you want.
Yeah, I rarely repeat dinner recipes. So it's
yeah, there's a few that I'm like, oh, we should have that again, but like most of the time she always comes up with new stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know how she does it.
Which is probably because I eat the same breakfast and lunch, so I have the energy for the complicated different dinners.
Yeah, and at least what I've seen, sometimes the kids are involved in dinner making as well. They like to get up on the counter and do a little bit of cooking themselves.
They do. Yeah, they like to be involved in everything, which is cool.
Sometimes they're more helpful than others, and you have to just kick
Sometimes the messes look like they're a little bit bigger based on the kids getting involved.
Yeah, sometimes we just let it happen. You just like, all right, you know, it's not worth fighting over or getting upset over, so we'll let you spill some over the side and swirl it on the counter a little bit. We can always clean it up.
A little more cleanup when they're involved, for sure.
Yeah, but I think that's one of those things, like we said before too, they're learning, they're doing, and ideally the learning and the doing is going to outweigh the extra cleanup or the hassle that it might cause.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I love the pieces we've highlighted already, this idea of movement. We're getting that every day in some way, shape, or form. Very active lifestyle. And then looking at the nutrition, which we spent a good chunk of time on and is really the base of the pyramid when we start thinking about how to be healthier, more fit. The other piece that I'm always fascinated by is this idea of mindset and the mentality we take towards whether it's training, whether it's, these habits and things we've set up outside of the gym. So I know, Michael, you're working towards something a little bit more concrete with the half Ironman coming up. So I'll start with you just real quickly around this idea of what sort of mindset and mentality are you taking into your training sessions? I know you're hitting the bike in the garage, starting to get back into it, a little bit up in the air around it. So just talk us a little bit about what is your mindset and mentality like when you think about training and getting into movement?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely been harder to get started than I had hoped it would have been. But I'm like a very regimented and routine person. So like I've got a 16-week training plan and I have it in an Excel sheet what I'm supposed to be doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like this much swimming, this much biking, this much running. So like what I've tried to do is like, as I'm getting back into it, remove any type of excuse I might have to not work out. So like, all right, I have the schedule, so I know what I should be doing every single day. It's like, all right, I've got a bike trainer now. It's like, okay, I have no excuse. Like, oh, there might be traffic. I can't go ride for 30 minutes consistently on the road. So I just won't go. Like, no, I have the trainer right in my garage. I can hop on and get on it and go. Like, oh, I got like running shorts, enough running shorts. Like, oh, I don't have running shorts today to go running. I need to do laundry. Like, just remove every single excuse that I might be able to throw at myself in the day that I'm trying to be like, all right, that's like, all right, get up and go. Like, you know what you're going to do, you know what you have to do. You have the equipment to do it. Like, get up and go. So I think for me, like the struggle has been swimming, just because I'm not a great swimmer. I don't have a swimming background. But I was in the pool the other day and I was kind of like, I probably don't want to die on the swim, because like that does happen. And so like I should probably, come to the pool consistently, because I need to get better at this. So
Mhm.
like biking, I'm proficient at, and like my legs are still there, and running, like I'm getting back into the long distance and things like that. But I think swimming's been the hardest to come back to. But getting in for this week the first time, I was like, yeah, I need to get better at this. So I really need to put some effort into it, not just put it off. So I think just like the consistency and telling myself like, all right, come October 25th, like it is happening, whether I do this training or not, like
Mhm.
it's happening. So I, need to be prepared as possible. So that's kind of been my mindset so far.
Yeah, a couple things I heard you say there that I love. One is this idea of how do we go about setting up our environment in such a way that it helps push us towards the goals or aspirations we have, and eliminating those excuses. There's a lot of days you probably don't feel like hopping on the bike or getting in the pool or running or whatever it is. And a lot of us can relate to that. Things happen in life. We don't really feel like doing it. So setting up your environment in such a way that it builds and helps push you towards that success, putting the bike trainer in the garage, making sure that the training gear you need is ready and washed, having access to a pool that allows you to swim. So setting up your environment is one of the more powerful things you can do when you start thinking about staying consistent towards your goal. So love that piece. And then it's funny how even just having that target date does give us that little extra bump and push. So having that specific goal in mind helps you to stay a little bit more consistent. So some really powerful tools that you're leveraging there, even if we don't realize it or not, which is pretty cool.
Struggle is real.
The struggle is real, yeah, and it's not always going to be the most enjoyable process. So having it mapped out for 16 weeks and just knowing some days you just got to check the box, and that's going to help get you closer to those goals is what it can take. And Kristen, how about you? So a little bit more open with your goals and general health, fitness, being strong. So when you step into the gym or think about training and movement, what sort of mindset or mentality do you have around going and investing in that?
Yeah, I guess my goal is just to get better each day. And I kind of use CrossFit as my me time for the day. And I definitely can see a difference between like the days that I don't do CrossFit and the days that I do, with like how I am as a parent. I'm a lot more patient when I've had that time to myself, and I've been able to like exert some energy in different different ways. And um, I it I I guess it's just a good way to set your mind for the day. That's why I like to get it done. We go to 8 a.m. But I feel like the rest of the day seems easier when I've had that time to, exert some energy.
Yeah, and I think something that you said there is, I mean, something that all of us can learn and take from is the saying that I've loved and heard over and over again is you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mhm.
And so this idea that if I'm constantly giving and giving and giving of myself and my time, my energy, sooner or later I'm depleted. But for you, investing in that movement and some time, some me time at the beginning of the day gives you that energy to feel like you're a better parent, better spouse, etc. So thinking about it in that perspective is pretty unique.
Yeah, and if I was at the gym not really giving my full effort, then I feel like that would be a waste of my time. If I'm spending that hour to, use my body and, grow as a person and have that me time, like if I'm not doing my best, then I'm not using that time to its full potential.
Yeah, so really wanting to maximize whatever time you have that you get to spend in there.
Yeah.
And a question for both of you here that I'm curious, because I always find this is very interesting when you get involved in something like CrossFit or Ironman distance training, is there's a lot of metrics involved: lifting, running, time, scores, whiteboard, etc. How much time would you say that you think about those data points, those metrics of am I moving further along? How do I stack up? versus I just want to move and I just want to, whatever the score is, whatever the time is of my run or my swim, it is what it is. I just want to move. Do you have a sense of like where you fall when it comes to how you think about the training that you're doing and the mindset that you have?
Yeah, I think for me it depends. Like obviously right now, like I used to have a goal in this half Ironman. I was like, I need to get to this time. Now I'm just like, I want to cross the finish line without collapsing. So that's like changed significantly. But I think even like in my CrossFit training too, it's like some seasons or sometimes you care more about certain lifts. Like for example, like February through like April, like my lower back was like, I don't know what was wrong with it. Like it just couldn't shake it. It was going to PT consistently. And like finally it came out of that. But like during that cycle, there was like a back squat PR, got into front squats, and like I just couldn't do any of that stuff during that time. But like coming back into it, you know, in the past like month or so, been able to do some more of those lifts, and I come back to it and I can look at like October last year versus February, March this year versus now. And like you look at the little peak of like what you were lifting at those points, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I'm a data guy. I like to look at analytics and run some numbers and stuff like that. So I'd say I like to look at it, but it's not something that I'm like, for me right now, personally, I'm not like, you know, working towards a PR in any one lift or not. Just, you know, knowing that I'm like staying at the same level, give or take, you know, 5-10%, I think is a good place for me right now. But I don't look at it consistently. So
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating, that perspective, because having those data points along the way help us to identify like where is maybe my overall health, fitness, etc. So it's not defining you, but it's just a nice sort of barometer around, okay, I'm tracking along. Oh, I got a little bit stronger. It's a nice surprise, but I'm still able to move and lift and engage in things that demonstrate I'm a healthy, fit person. And there's a mix of when you focus on it and when you don't. So, Kristen, how about you?
I'm definitely a very competitive person in general. And so I'm not, I've kind of come to the realization, you know, joining CrossFit and everything, that like my life looks different than everyone else's though. So I'm not necessarily competitive with other people. But more so like my numbers, like when it's PR day, I like really want to hit a PR. And you know, I always feel good about it when I do. And then, you know, finding my weaknesses, like I know that my overhead strength is a weakness. And so me and Anna have been working on shoulder strength and overhead strength and all that. So hopefully, you know, we'll get better at that. So like consistently getting better is very important to me. And I do like to see, you know, those PRs when it's like the day that we get to do that. And but I definitely think the good thing with age is that I'm less competitive against other people. And it's really more of like an internal. So like if I don't hit that PR, like I'm not crushed for the day and I'm not like checking the leaderboard, you know, like, oh, I didn't do as good as this person who like trains 5 hours a day. So I feel like I feel like it's a really good competitive headspace to be in for me. There's enough to push me to work hard, but it doesn't like drive me crazy or make me feel bad about myself ever.
Yeah, the thing I love about that perspective is there's a maturity to that perspective. And
yeah, definitely wasn't like that before.
Every CrossFitter has that journey of like, ooh, I'm competitive again. I used to be an athlete. And then we look at the leaderboard. Oh, I'm getting better. Look at how much better I'm getting. And then you realize there's always somebody out there who's going to be better than you. Like it doesn't matter if it's like the guy next to you at the gym or the guy at the gym down the street. Like there's always somebody better than you.
Yeah.
And if we get so wrapped up in our own efforts and intensity, comparing it to other people, we're going to constantly be on that roller coaster. And that's not a very fun ride. That being said, there's moments and times where maybe it's nice to just see where you stack up against others if you enjoy competing in local competitions or the open. But having a more stable, I would say, point of, okay, I'm just comparing myself to where was I last month, last year, etc. Am I tracking based on my life, the balance and all that stuff? It's a great, healthy space to be in where you can continue to push and see where you can go. But at the same time, like you said, it's not going to take away from your ability to be a parent, spouse, or anything like that. So it's really a unique perspective that I think everyone has to figure out for themselves. What's that balance of competing against myself and then taking a peek and just seeing maybe where I stack up, and maybe that helps to identify some areas that you want to improve, like you said. So
yeah, like competitions are like, competitions, you're going to compete, but like every day-to-day stuff, I feel like that'd be exhausting to like compete against the other members of the gym every single day. That'd be a lot.
It is. And the emotional roller coaster that comes with that is very challenging as well. And I've had the conversation in some of the previous podcasts around this idea of training versus competing. The numbers that some people throw out, some people say as much as 90% of our time should be training, just getting better, focusing on movement, technique. Maybe the PRs come, great, but that 10% of competing, that's where we're really elevating ourselves. The intensity is maxed out, because if you try and compete every single day, burnout will not be far behind. So something to think about.
Yeah.
But well, I will say we've had a lot of great conversations tonight. I've loved hearing about how you've integrated movement and nutrition and mindset into the family structure that you have with the two you currently have and the one on the way. It's really unique, and I think there's a lot of things that all of us can take from that, of how do we build an environment and a structure that supports healthy, fit living. So thank you both for coming on the podcast and sharing some of your insights. I'm excited for folks to hear it, and I look forward to seeing you all at the gym again soon.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.